made it to Baltimore. That's right, we are in Maryland. About to get off the freeway, check out a couple sights. I'll be honest, I did not drive to the East Coast to see Baltimore. This is just kind of en route. But, sure enough, did find some pretty memorable stuff here in Baltimore. There's a good chance if there's a memorial, like a statue of a character I'm familiar with, I'm probably gonna stop and see it. And that always kind of interests me. These two gentlemen are no exception. Got the iconic Ray Lewis doing his sack dance. Over here, a football great from long ago, Johnny Unitas. It's interesting, Johnny and Ray actually sort of played for two different teams, so they were both football heroes in the city of Baltimore. Ray Lewis playing for the Ravens, the current team, and Johnny U actually played for the Baltimore Colts. Good old Ray. It's not every day a defensive back gets named Super Bowl MVP. He might have murdered two people, though. Checking out some of the downtown skyline. A little windy, a little cloudy, but it's a warm one, nonetheless. Cool-looking clock tower. This building here on your left is the Bno Warehouse. That's B&O as in the B&O Railroad, just like Monopoly. This building is a little over 1,100 feet long, completely made of brick. B&O stands for Baltimore and Ohio. This was an actual railroad that ran through here. And I think in the early 90s was when they built this stadium here. And I remember as a kid always thinking how cool it looked on TV and in like video games and stuff. Because this is basically right field, so if someone hits a really far home run, it'll actually hit this giant brick building. In fact, only one player has ever hit it that far. It was Ken Griffey Jr. Here you can see how that B&O Warehouse sits next to the field. The warehouse was actually built in 1899, so almost 100 years before the stadium you see next to it was added on. No, I can't say this was at the top of my travel list, nor my bucket list, but can honestly say I've wanted to see this stadium since I was a little kid. In fact, I remember playing Ken Griffey Jr. Major League Baseball for Super Nintendo and noticing that odd-looking building in right field. Fort McHenry. Pretty big one, actually. Go on, I'll explain some of the significance of that. Now, a lot of you might never have heard of Fort McHenry. Might never have heard of the Battle of Baltimore. But everyone in America knows the influence of this fort and that particular battle. Everyone. Probably almost everyone in the whole world, to be honest. Because if you've ever looked up the lyrics to the Star Spangled Banner, or, living in America, you probably know the lyrics to it, then you know a little bit about what happened at this site. And it involved this man, another famous George Armistead. And he led a group of men here at this fort charged with the monumental task of resisting the entire British Navy. So this battle took place in September of 1814, right at the tail end of the War of 1812. This would have been right where the British encountered the city of Baltimore and all the American forces. They weren't ready. They thought they could sit from a distance and peck us off with their long range, but it did not work out for them. Because as it turns out, this fort could take a beating. The British bombarded it all day and night long with rockets and artillery. There's a cool artist's rendition. What it doesn't note, though, is that the British Navy, by a good margin, had the range advantage. They could sit out range of our cannons and just blast us, which is basically what they did. But, as you can see, the fort's still here. It took that beating just fine. And in the morning, guess what? The fort was still here. The flag was still here. And that particular scene is what inspired Francis Scott Key to write the Star Spangled Banner. And to this day, anybody who wants to can stroll up on in there and check it out. Pretty nice in here. Kinda looks like a country club or something. Anyway, let's go look at more cannons. Out here, on the shores of the Chesapeake Bay, this is where the actual battle would have happened. And naturally, this is where the cannons are set up. Pretty cool. You can see how they would have been set up to rotate and aim accordingly at the ships. So there's some pretty cool recreations. I love that there's nobody around here to stop me from playing with stuff. Pretty cool checking out all these old cannons they still got here. You can see exactly where they would have been set up, where they would have defended the city. Really the country too. You gotta remember, the British had just sacked DC. Like, that doesn't happen every day. Except January 6th, am I right? Hey! This would have been their next stop from there. This is where the show ended, at least on this side. Over New Orleans a few months later would be another story, but that one would also end pretty well for the old Continental Army. Outside of the main walls, but still inside of the outer perimeter, you got these weird tunnels built into the ground. A little creepy, but let's check it out. Ew, it's kind of gross. And kind of creepy. It's in here. Can't proceed any further, I guess. Let's get out of here. Creepy crypt. It's pretty crazy to look out there to the bay and just kind of think about what went down here. When they're talking about the rockets' red glare and the bombs bursting in the air, this is the place. This is exactly where they're talking about. This was a big turning point. They tried all night long and could not get through to Baltimore. It was a pretty miraculous defensive stand. Against all odds, this fort held up under heavy, heavy fire. Just a few short months later, down in New Orleans, Battle of New Orleans, Andrew Jackson finished the job. That would go down as the last battle. One more people know about for sure. But this was a big one too. This was a big turning point. Heading back to the van, ready to enjoy a cold beverage. So yeah, if you didn't know the history of where the Star Spangled Banner comes from and what that poem is about, now you know. Battle at Fort McHenry. In fact, the original title of the poem that featured the lyrics of the Star Spangled Banner was called The Defense of Fort McHenry. And it happened here in Baltimore.